Right now, putting a very specific set of words on your resume, words that honestly didn't even exist in the corporate world a few years ago, it doesn't just get you an interview.
Oh, not at all.
Right. It literally, statistically, guarantees you a significantly higher salary, exponentially more remote work flexibility, and surprisingly, even better parental leave.
Yeah, which is wild.
It is wild. And the ultimate irony here is that you don't actually need to know how to write a single line of computer code to get all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which completely upends that, traditional narrative we've all been sold.
The prodigy
Right.
narrative.
The idea that you have to be this math or computer science prodigy to just
Yeah.
survive the next decade of the economy. You really don't.
And so that brings us to the core mission for our deep dive today. We are exploring exactly how artificial intelligence is fundamentally rewriting the rules of our paychecks, our job interviews, and just overall corporate strategy. Because for you listening, whether you're, actively trying to map out your next career move, or you're simply trying to understand why the current job market feels so deeply chaotic right now, this is really going to give you the blueprint.
And the foundation we're using to build this blueprint is this remarkably comprehensive paper by Jonathan H. Westover, PhD. It's titled The AI Skills Premium.
And it's not just guesswork, right?
No, this isn't just theoretical forecasting or guessing the future.
Yeah.
The research analyzes over 10 million actual job postings.
10 million. That's a massive data set.
Huge across the US, the UK, and Europe. And it parses the specific requirements, the compensation packages, and the really deep structural shifts in what hiring managers are just, frankly, desperately seeking right now.
Okay, let's unpack this, because whenever a new technology arrives, the temptation is always to compare it to the last big thing, right?
Of course.
Like you look at the Industrial Revolution, factory owners brought in electricity to replace steam power, and they expected this instant surge in productivity.
Right.
But for a long time, nothing happened. Output just stayed totally flat. They had to learn the hard way that just plugging a modern electric motor into an old, inefficient steam-era factory floor layout didn't fix anything.
Yeah, the layout was the problem.
Exactly. The productivity only exploded after they fundamentally redesigned the workflows and actually retrained the humans to use the new power.
So are we basically just watching that exact same historical cycle repeat itself with AI? Is this just internet boom 2.0?
Well, the underlying mechanism of workflow redesign is identical, sure. But the sheer speed of the transformation, that's completely unprecedented.
How so?
The historical timeline is really what's causing so much whiplash for companies right now. Think about the smartphone.
Okay.
It took roughly 15 years for smartphones to reach 50% market penetration in advanced economies.
15 years. Right. And that allowed this gradual, natural adaptation period for businesses to figure out mobile strategies. It allowed the labor market to naturally produce app developers. Generative AI tools crossed that exact same 50% adoption threshold in under 3 years.
Wow. Under 3 years.
Yeah.
And that compression, that's where the chaos lives. You don't have a decade to slowly phase in new university graduates or revamp your entire corporate training curriculum. Companies are forced to figure out their entire human adaptation strategy basically overnight.
Which leads us to the core question of what exactly organizations are rushing to buy in the labor market right now. Because the automatic assumption is that AI skills means the technical core.
Like the programmers.
Right, the machine learning engineers, the data scientists who are building those complex neural network architectures.
The people sitting in dark rooms building the actual brain of the system, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, those individuals are absolutely sought after. But the data from those 10 million job postings reveals this massive parallel demand for applied complementary capabilities.
Interesting.
The market is hunting for prompt engineering and general AI literacy.
And prompt engineering isn't coding, right?
No, prompt engineering is not programming at all. It's the ability to formulate highly contextual, really effective instructions for large language models to solve a specific business problem. And AI literacy means understanding, when to apply an automated tool, how to critically audit the output for hallucinations or bias, and just deeply understanding the limitations of the tech.
So let's visualize how that actually functions in the real world. Because instead of comparing it to, driving a fast car, I look at the paper's findings sort of like a master chef getting a robotic prep cook.
Okay, I like that.
Right. So the AI robot can dice 1,000 onions in 30 seconds, which is incredible speed. But the robot is totally useless if the chef doesn't have the domain expertise to know exactly how fine those onions need to be diced to make, the specific reduction sauce work.
Yes.
So the magic really only happens when you combine that domain expertise with the technological tool.
What's fascinating here is that researchers actually have a specific term for this dynamic. They call it the bundle effect.
The bundle effect.
Yeah. When hiring managers are scanning resumes right now, they aren't looking for one isolated technical trait. They're tracking a bundle of competencies. Let's look at the medical field, for instance.
Okay.
A radiologist who possesses all the traditional medical knowledge but also knows how to collaborate with a diagnostic AI system is vastly more valuable to a hospital than a doctor working entirely analog.
Because they're faster.
Faster and more accurate. The AI can highlight 100 potential anomalies on an MRI in seconds. But the human radiologist applies patient history, subtle clinical context, and just human judgment to filter out all the false positives. Employers desperately want that medical domain expertise bundled with AI fluency to supercharge the workflow.
And we see the exact same bundle in customer service. Like an agent who can expertly query an AI-powered knowledge base while maintaining deep human empathy and judgment, they're going to resolve a complex billing issue much faster and honestly with a much happier customer.
Absolutely.
Way faster than either a purely automated chatbot that just frustrates people or a human agent putting you on hold for 20 minutes to read a physical manual.
And the demand for this specific bundle is what is driving up compensation at such an aggressive rate. Let's look at the quantifiable premium the data actually reveals here.
Let's hear the numbers.
In the United Kingdom, the analysis shows a 23% wage premium, specifically for jobs requiring AI skills compared to identical roles that do not.
23%. I mean, when you compound a 23% bump over the course of a 20 or 30-year career, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional lifetime wealth generation simply for having this bundled skill set.
Yeah, it's life-changing. And in the U.S. labor market, the premium is actually even more pronounced. The research indicates AI-related roles command median salaries that are 20 to 30% higher than comparable positions within the exact same occupational families.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the financial compensation is just the baseline. The non-monetary perks are staggering and honestly a bit counterintuitive.
And much so.
The data shows that these heavily technical AI-intensive roles are twice as likely to offer generous parental leave.
Yeah.
And they are 3 times as likely to include remote work options. So I have to ask, why is a highly technical skill forcing massive corporations to offer deeply human, lifestyle-oriented benefits just to get a signature on an offer letter?
It comes down to basic economics. Supply is persistently lagging behind an absolute tidal wave of demand. Mentions of AI skills in job postings increased roughly tenfold between 2014 and 2024.
Tenfold!
Yeah. And 3 cascading factors created this massive spike. First, cloud computing made AI infinitely more affordable.
Right.
A mid-sized logistics firm no longer needs to build a multi-million-dollar server farm to run predictive analytics. They could just rent the processing power on demand.
Makes sense.
Second is the sheer applicability of generative AI. Earlier forms of AI were highly specialized, like predicting machine failure on an assembly line. Generative AI writes marketing copy, analyzes legal contracts, debugs code. It applies to every single department.
And the third factor has to be pure, unadulterated corporate panic, like the fear of missing out.
Oh, absolutely.
The CEO sees a competitor using AI to optimize their supply chain and instantly mandates that their own HR department hire an AI team by Friday.
And that panic creates a fierce seller's market for talent. Standard corporate salary bands often have really strict caps. A hiring manager might not be authorized to offer 50% above the base salary for a marketing director, even if that director has incredible AI skills.
Their hands are tied by HR rules.
Right. So to win the talent war, human resources uses off-balance sheet total rewards. They leverage maximum remote flexibility and enhanced family leave as the ultimate tiebreakers to secure the candidate.
Wow.
And simply having these demonstrable skills on your resume acts as a profound signal of adaptability. The experimental hiring studies in the paper show that just listing AI competencies boosts your chances of securing an initial interview by 8 to 15%.
And that 15% edge is massive because it actively counteracts traditional labor market disadvantages. It functions as an equalizer. Like if an older worker faces implicit age discrimination regarding their, technological adaptability, a certified AI skill set totally nullifies that bias. Or if someone lacks an elite university degree, the applied skill speaks much louder than the missing credential.
But that shift toward prioritizing skills over credentials introduces a massive structural dilemma for the organizations themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say, if mid-sized companies are suddenly tripling remote work allocations and paying 30% salary premiums just to get someone in the door, that financial math has to break eventually.
Oh, it does.
How are legacy companies affording these massive talent premiums without bankrupting themselves or just completely eroding their internal company culture?
Well, the short answer is a lot of them aren't affording it. Many organizations are currently running chaotic, highly expensive AI experiments that yield literally zero return on investment.
Yikes.
The paper clearly delineates that only companies possessing what they call absorptive capacity actually realize the promised 5 to 15% productivity gains.
Okay, let's define absorptive capacity, because that sounds like a sponge, but in a corporate context, what does it actually mean?
Absorptive capacity is basically the organization's internal mechanism for recognizing the value of new external information, assimilating it, and then applying it to commercial ends.
Okay.
In practice, it means having roles like data translators already in place. These are professionals who understand the legacy IT infrastructure. They deeply understand the business objective, like reducing customer churn, for example, and they can seamlessly bridge the gap between the two.
And if you don't have them?
If you lack that internal translation capacity, you end up purchasing a $1 million enterprise AI software package that fundamentally clashes with your outdated data silos, and it just sits idle.
So to build that absorptive capacity, companies are being forced to rip up their traditional hiring rulebooks. The case study on Siemens in the paper is a perfect example of this.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Right, because they are a massive, very traditional industrial conglomerate, but they systematically abandoned degree requirements for many of their data science and AI integration roles. They just shifted to entirely competency-based frameworks.
Because they realized the traditional keyword scanning software was aggressively filtering out the exact talent they needed.
Right.
A self-taught programmer with an exceptional portfolio of automated workflows or a bootcamp graduate with specific prompt engineering skills was literally being rejected because they didn't have a 4-year computer science degree.
Which is insane.
It is. By shifting to practical skills assessments like giving candidates a raw data set and asking them to extract actionable insights using AI Siemens can identify capability regardless of pedigree.
Now, JP Morgan Chase took a different approach that really highlights the compensation friction we were talking about. They openly recognized that to build their AI infrastructure, they had to pay current market rates for specialists.
Right.
And sometimes that meant paying a relatively young data scientist a base salary historically reserved for a senior banking executive.
And this raises an important question about internal equity, which HR departments are just agonizing over daily.
I'm going to push back on this entirely. Because I don't care how many corporate memos you send out. If I am a 10-year veteran vice president at a banker, I know the regulatory environment, I know the client base, and suddenly some new AI hire in sweatpants working from their living room makes 30% more than me.
Yeah.
That is going to actively destroy your internal culture. Resentment will go through the roof. So how are they surviving that dynamic?
It requires an incredibly delicate structural redesign of how career progression works. JP Morgan managed this by implementing a transparent technology career lattice.
The lattice.
Notice it's a lattice, not a ladder. The ladder only goes up or down within one silo. A lattice allows horizontal movement.
Oh, okay.
This means a traditional branch manager or a risk assessment officer can step sideways into an AI product owner role for, say, 18 months. They retain their seniority, they learn the technological integration, and crucially, they gain access to those compensation premiums. You don't have to quit and start at the bottom of the IT department to capture the value.
So you give the legacy employees a direct bridge to the new money.
Exactly. Furthermore, leadership must communicate with radical transparency that the 30% premium is purely a reflection of temporary market scarcity.
It's just supply and demand.
Right. It is supply and demand, not a declaration that the AI worker is inherently superior or more vital to the firm's long-term survival than the veteran domain expert.
But even if you build a lattice, right, and you manage the internal resentment, the external hiring pool is still entirely too shallow. The math just doesn't work. You cannot poach your way to an entirely new workforce when demand outpaces supply by a factor of 10. Companies are realizing they have to build these capabilities from within, like they have to upskill their existing workforce.
And that is a massive hurdle because generic corporate training is historically highly ineffective.
Oh, the worst.
Right. Handing an employee a login to a generic online video portal and asking them to learn Python on their own time yields negligible performance improvements. Upskilling only works when it is highly contextualized to the employee's actual daily friction points.
And AT&T is a phenomenal case study here. They faced a monumental technological shift and chose not to engage in mass layoffs to just hire external unicorns. They launched Workforce 2020, which was a $1 billion initiative to reskill tens of thousands of their existing employees.
It's massive.
And the genius of that program was that they explicitly tied the educational modules to internal job postings.
Right. Because if an employee knows that completing a specific data analytics and AI integration module directly qualifies them for a newly posted higher paying role within their own division, the engagement completely skyrockets. You have to connect the learning directly to tangible career advancement.
Microsoft approaches this through cultural engineering. They instituted a growth mindset framework where they actually protect 10 to 20% of an employee's weekly work hours, specifically for continuous skill development.
Which is huge.
You aren't supposed to squeeze it in on Sunday night. Learning the new tools is considered a fundamental metric of your actual job performance. Because honestly, traditional corporate training is like a one-size-fits-all, ugly holiday sweater that fits absolutely nobody.
That's a great way to put it. And protecting that time builds the necessary psychological safety to experiment. We really cannot ignore the psychological toll this rapid transition is taking on the workforce.
People are stressed.
Deeply. When you introduce automation into a workflow, it triggers existential dread. Employees fear rapid skill obsolescence. If their primary value to the company over the last decade has been routine cognitive tasks, basic financial auditing, generating weekly reports, manual data entry, and an AI can suddenly do that in 3 seconds, they are terrified of being replaced.
Naturally.
If leadership just drops an AI platform onto a team without a supportive upskilling pathway, you will face massive passive resistance.
Looking at this entire landscape, I am genuinely concerned about the broader societal implications here. Because if the market naturally rewards people who already have the disposable time and financial runway to take a 6-month unpaid boot camp to learn these skills, we aren't democratizing the workplace at all.
No, we're not.
We are just going to aggressively accelerate the wealth gap. The people capturing the 30% salary bumps and the extreme flexibility are largely the populations already sitting comfortably at the top of the economic ladder.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have identified the inclusion challenge, which is perhaps the most critical warning in Dr. Westover's research.
Really?
Yes. Left entirely to the friction of the free market, AI capability will strictly concentrate among already advantaged demographics. We're talking about elite university graduates and individuals situated in high-income tech hubs. To prevent massive workforce displacement, organizations must build intentional inclusion mechanisms.
But how does a company actually execute intentional inclusion? Like, it has to be more than just a nice mission statement on a website.
It requires actively removing the financial and credential barriers. Accenture provides an excellent model for this. They partnered directly with community colleges to create specialized apprenticeship programs.
Smart.
Very. They deliberately bypassed the elite university filters and targeted non-degree candidates. They assess these candidates for underlying problem-solving aptitude and motivation rather than past academic prestige. After providing intensive contextualized training, they guaranteed those apprentices full-time technology roles.
That is a direct pipeline that just totally sidesteps the traditional wealth filters.
Exactly. It also requires companies to build foundational bridge programs internally. You do not take a frontline logistics coordinator, hand them an advanced machine learning course, and expect success.
They'd just be lost.
You have to provide the stepping stones. A bridge program teaches basic statistical reasoning, computational thinking, and data hygiene. It provides the necessary foundation so that non-technical staff can safely cross the bridge into advanced AI literacy.
Well, we have navigated an immense amount of complex data today, so let's synthesize the blueprint here. We established that AI is fundamentally reshaping labor economics at a speed that honestly dwarfs previous technological revolutions. Employers are not just looking for isolated coders, they are hunting for the bundle effect.
Yeah.
Professionals who possess deep human domain expertise perfectly integrated with applied AI literacy.
Because those are the individuals capable of translating raw processing power into actual business value.
Exactly. And because demand for those integrators is outstripping supply tenfold, they are commanding massive 20 to 30% salary premiums and off-balance sheet lifestyle perks. To survive this, organizations are ripping up degree requirements, adopting skills-based hiring frameworks, and redesigning their internal architecture with career lattices.
Yeah.
Finally, because no company can simply buy their way out of this talent deficit, the only sustainable path forward is building a culture of continuous, contextualized learning, while ensuring intentional bridge programs exist so non-technical workers aren't permanently left behind.
That's a perfect summary.
So what does this all mean for you? It means it is time to ruthlessly audit your own skill set. Look at your daily workflows. Are you positioning yourself as an isolated traditionalist, or are you actively building that highly lucrative bundle? Because the labor market is broadcasting a very clear signal here. The protective shield of old credentials is fading, and your demonstrable applied skills are the new currency.
That is precisely the internal audit everyone needs to perform. And I want to leave you with one final structural thought drawn from the conclusion of the research.
Well,
We are constantly fed this science fiction narrative that the ultimate economic battle of the 21st century is going to be between humans and machines.
Right, Terminator style.
Exactly. But the data suggests that it is a fundamentally flawed framing. The real race is between economies and organizations that diffuse these capabilities broadly and those that hoard them narrowly. AI is what economists call a general-purpose technology, meaning, like electricity or the steam engine, it has the power to alter the mechanics of every single sector of the economy simultaneously, not just one specific industry. History proves that general-purpose technologies only deliver widespread prosperity and elevate the middle class when the skills to harness them spread just as fast as the technology itself.
That makes total sense.
So the question you need to ponder long after this deep dive ends is this. If AI integration skills truly become the ultimate dividing line for economic security in our lifetime, what happens to the massive populations left on the wrong side of that line? And more importantly, what is your personal role within your own company or community in making sure this transformative knowledge spreads rather than concentrates?